Hello, I'm your host, Leonard Duncan. Welcome to a new episode of ATV-TALK and Motorsports Podcast. Please join us every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We bring you interviews with industry professionals, live events, live news about the motorsports industry in every episode. Enjoy the show. Whether we are out riding with our friends and family or racing in extreme environments, we all need good tires. That's why I recommend GBC Power Sports Tires, a division of Greenball Corp. Their products, which include XC Master, Mini Master, and Groundbuster 3, are what leading professionals in the ATV-UTV industry are using. You can get your tires at greenballtires.com or find them on Instagram as GBC Tires for further inquiries. Are you looking for the best suspension technology for your sport ATV? Look no further than Elka Suspension, the industry leader in sport ATV suspension technology. With championship wins in prestigious events such as the Dakar Rally, SCORE, Best in the Desert, ATV MX, Cross Country, and WORCS, Elka Suspension has established itself as the go-to choice for athletes and enthusiasts alike. But they don't just stop at ATVs. They're constantly expanding into new markets, including UTVs, trucks, SUVs, pit bikes, snowmobiles, and more. Their commitment to innovation and quality means they're always looking to improve and adapt so you can enjoy a smooth ride wherever you go. Want to learn more about what Elka Suspension can do for you? Visit their website at elkasuspension.com or give them a call at 450-655-4855. They will always be happy to answer your questions and help you find the perfect suspension solution for your needs. Dave Haam, welcome back to ATV Talk. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. It's doing really good. How about you?
Oh, no complaints, man. Other than I got a little fight with a dog, but
Yeah.
I
They get the
lost,
they get the best of you?
oh yeah, I totally lost, but it's okay. The smaller they are, the harder they are to tame.
Yeah. Yeah, a little one that thinks it's a big one, right? They always do.
The little ones just get all really defensive when you touch their toys or their chews or anything like that. And this one, I knew better and got too close, and she let me have it.
Oh, wow. Well, you'll learn your lesson from that one.
Yeah, stay away. Just let mama have her dogs, and I'll go work on quads. It's easier that way.
There you go.
So, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you or talked to you much since Buckeye.
Yeah,
I noticed that you've been racing some, but
I've been doing.
I also saw some stuff on social media where, what kind of rides are you going on for those long distances?
You know what? I got another side by side. I had a side by side a while back, but I got another one, and I didn't have a side by side for a few years and missed it a little bit, and got a hold of another one here recently, and just exploring the desert, man. Me and my son jumped in that thing and took off for the weekend. Packed camping gear and some supplies that we thought we would need, and we took off and put on about 150 miles. Went and explored the Sonora Desert, which is south of Buckeye, quite a bit in between Buckeye basically and the Mexican border. And man, the desert is just in bloom right now. We had just enough rain in the last few months, and all those cactuses are going wild. It's beautiful right now, really nice. And we just had a great time getting away from civilization and checking out the desert terrain.
And when you guys go out on those rides, it's better if you're exploring and sightseeing in the UTV than the ATV, correct?
Well, on this kind of trip, especially because we can take all kinds of camping gear and all that good stuff with us. So, when it came time to it started getting dark out there, we set up a campsite in this awesome canyon by ourselves and had everything we could want to be comfortable. So yeah, it worked out really cool.
There's no real predators in the Arizona desert down where you guys were, are there?
You know, yes and no. What I mean by that is we saw a lot of bighorn sheep and a lot of deer on this particular ride. And anytime they're around, there's big kitty cats to eat them, keep the population in check. We didn't see any mountain lions, but I know they're there.
Well, that's the whole thing. They never let you see them until it's too late.
Yeah, yeah. Me and my son were talking about that. Out of the wildlife we saw, we were kind of just joking about, I wonder how many wildlife saw us that we had no idea, you know?
Probably the numbers are way astronomically higher because they'd obviously seen you way before you could even see them.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the coolest things was we were going on this ridge line, um, and these big giant vultures were soaring. It was just getting those drafts from those thermals, and this one was like right outside the passenger window. And as we were going across this ridge line, I don't know, we weren't going very fast, maybe 25, 30 miles an hour. It was soaring like right next to us. I mean, the wingspan on this thing had to be at least 10 feet. And it was just super cool. He was just looking over at us, and it was a cool experience. It really was.
He was probably thinking, you guys move too much to be food. Because they're scavengers basically. They eat everything that dies out there. So if you're moving, they don't want nothing to do with you.
Good point. Maybe we looked like we were going to stop soon or something. Maybe they knew something we didn't know, but luckily the machine held up and we had no drama. Didn't have to use any tools at all. And it was just a really cool weekend experience. The weather was in our favor. So at nighttime, it was, I don't know, maybe got down to maybe 60 degrees at night. So you didn't really need to get in the sleeping bag really. And the daytime high wasn't even 80. So couldn't ask for better weather. And like, so this was a whole region of Arizona's desert that I've never even explored before. So it was cool. It was really neat just to get out and get away from it all and relax and check it all out.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing that. We are a motorsports podcast, even though we just focus mostly on ATVs and three wheelers and stuff. We do want to talk about everything. I'm not the biggest UTV fan, but just because I'm not a fan doesn't mean you can't go out and have a lot of fun in them.
I was the biggest anti UTV guy there was. I mean, I was against them. I watched the whole trail system basically, and especially out of the dunes. There are just so many of those guys out there on big weekends. They tore it up and made it not so fun for other vehicles as far as I was concerned. And then I made the mistake of jumping in one and going for a little ride and checking it out and seeing what they were all about. There's not too much adrenaline, at least in the one I have. It's not no crazy. I have a YXZ, um, and it's not no hot rod, and I don't use it for a hot rod. If I want adrenaline, I'll get on something with handlebars. But it is really cool to have that in my arsenal to be able to take people out that can't ride and go exploring things and take, like I say, taking camping gear and all that kind of stuff. I can't do that on my quad, my three wheeler, or my dirt bike. But in this thing, we could load it to the hilt and has a good sized trunk to put all kinds of good stuff in. And it made it for a pleasant weekend experience. It really did. And taking other people out that have never seen off roading and be able to throw them in the passenger seat and let them experience it through some sort of off-road vehicle, I think is pretty cool. And that's the best thing about the side-by-side thing for me anyway.
I think the fact that you could go out and see nature at its best is something that I like. The desert terrain and all the different things that you can find out in the desert, and where there are some wooded areas. We don't have them here as much on the West Coast that you're going to get to go ride in. But think about some of the cool stuff that they get to do in the center portion of our country and on the East Coast with their UTVs, getting to ride on some of those trails in the trees and stuff. It's just got to be so like relaxing almost to
Oh
be
yeah.
stuff.
And I mean, you've done enough desert racing as I, and some of these desert races, we go through some amazing countryside. And I've been many times driving through. I mean, Vegas to Reno is a perfect example. You're going through these mountains and canyon passes and stuff, and I keep saying to myself, "Man, I just want to come back here and check this out when I don't have to go as fast as I possibly can safely and relax and just enjoy the scenery because there really is some awesome uh, races as far as the terrain things we get to see, but we're so focused on going as fast as we possibly can that we can't really relax and enjoy it. So side by sides are cool for that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And you know what, those guys that race them do go awful fast as well. You know, you can't take anything away from them either.
No, they're awesome, and their numbers are growing. I mean, facts are there. I mean, if you look at I think the Silver State was just last weekend, and man, it was sad to see the quad numbers. They weren't too hot. Um, Dirt bikes and side by sides just dominated, but every single desert race that I've been involved with in the last 5 to 6 years, the numbers of side by sides are going up drastically in every single one of them.
Yeah, I see it too. I think some people look at it as a safety issue or a cheaper form of racing. You know, some of those teams spend an awful lot of money to go racing, though.
I can't imagine it being cheaper. I actually think, I mean, outside of a trophy truck, obviously, it's super expensive. I mean, I watched those machines. The number of DNFs is getting better. But I mean, go back 5 years ago, half the entries from Vegas to Reno didn't finish.
Right.
And now they're starting to get up there where 75-80% of them are finishing those races. But it takes a lot of money to get that car to that level to be able to run hard and not break and to finish the race. And they're usually switching parts and tires and wheels and all kinds of stuff along the way to keep it happy.
You know, if you look back in the history of the sport, you know, I think you were around as a spectator more so than at that point. In the beginning of the three-wheeler series and the four-wheelers, there was a lot of DNFs. There was a lot of people that, you know, it took a long time before they had it down to where you could get into the 80, 90 percentile of finishes, where every sport or every vehicle has to go through the growing pains of learning how to get it to the finish line by not overriding it or over driving it, but what it takes to put on the machine that are quality parts.
100%. I love talking to, Mike Coe and Sundahl and all those guys that race three wheelers in the long distance races back in the 80s, actually in early 70s, if you really want to get down to it. But I mean, Mike was telling me that they had 13 flat tires in Vegas to Reno one year. I mean, back then it was called the Frontier 500, but 13 flat tires. I mean, I don't think there was 13 flat tires in the entire quad and three-wheeler classes combined last year. And they had that on one machine back in those days.
You know, whether they were also using a two-ply tire that was never meant
Yeah.
for that. They went to four-ply tires later on in the career of Honda with Otsu and stuff. If you talk to Mike about it, they did get some tougher tires. Now we run six-ply tires with inserts.
Oh yeah. No, blocks are almost a must if you really got to compete for the win. I mean, you have to have a lot of luck on your side if you're not running an insert and expecting to get up on top of the box at the finish line.
Correct, correct. You know, I thought that the numbers in the quad class were respectable from what they had been. You know, where there were two and three pros, but at least they had five signed up. One of the teams there was an injury, and then an engine failure before they got to the starting line. So there only four went off the starting gate, but that's better than three. You know,
That's true. That's true.
I, I
You know,
didn't see.
one of the things that I think is super cool is I mean, with the exception of probably dirt bikes, but as far as all the different vehicles, I mean, if you look at cars, trucks, three wheelers, quads, dirt bikes, UTVs, the biggest success rate on non DNFs in desert racing from how many are at the starting line to the finish line, three wheelers are number one. No DNFs in the three wheeler world.
Nice. How many did you see how many three wheelers raced the Silver State? I didn't. I didn't even
I
see
don't
them.
think I don't think there was anyone out there at that one.
They're probably going to be getting ready for Vegas to Reno.
Vegas to Reno, and then we got two choices on 1,000-mile races here in the States, and that's super exciting. Legacy's putting on 1,000-miler, and so is Best in the Desert.
Yeah, I think the Legacy race is a 2-day race.
That's what I understand, and I don't think all of the details have been revealed yet for Best in the Desert, what they're going to do with theirs. But
They're going to do
still,
this.
to have about 1,000-mile races here in the States is, I don't think that's ever happened, has it?
Yeah, we raced the Nevada 1000 and they had the Nevada 2000.
Okay, what was that, 80s or pre-80s?
It was 2000.
In 2000, they raced a 2,000-mile race here in the States?
Um, I know they raced 1,000 miler because I raced it.
Okay, well, awesome. So I
2000,
know, but they're
what
bringing
was
them
it,
back, so that's
2003
really
or
cool.
2002? I don't remember exactly.
All right, I didn't realize that they had those here. I thought this was the first go around, but anyway, super exciting. They've been missing for a while, I guess, and now they're coming back. So that's really cool. So gearing up for that.
They got to do something to compete with score, you know. Um, One of the things I like best about what is going on with Legacy is the fact they dropped the entry fees.
Yeah, I mean, these are some tough times. It's part of the reason I think the numbers are going down in some of the classes is, man, just everything's so expensive right now. It's insane. I mean, gas to get to the race, gas for the vehicles.
For a
I mean, you're
promoter,
running multiple pit crews, multiple pit trucks, and all that adds up when it really comes down to it. Just the economy right now is not in our favor.
no, it's not. No, it's not. But for a promoter to see that and go, hey, I want
Yep.
to help you guys. Let's get the motorcycle entries up. Let's get the ATV entries up. Let's cut their deal in half. I know some of the truck teams would complain a little maybe, but you know what? They are dealing with a whole different budget than we are.
Oh, for sure. And like I
They're
say, I
also
think they'll make more money by dropping that fees. I'm pretty sure that you'll get a lot more entries that probably were on the edge of not going, and they've with tried doing that. They haven't made a whole lot of people that are on the edge kind of on the fence and jump over and say, yes, we're doing it now. So kudos to them, and I'm looking forward to the numbers.
Yeah. And and wasn't Legacy the first one to let the three wheelers in, or was it Best in the Desert?
Best in the Desert, I think, was first to let him in. But just talking about three wheeler racing in general, there was that doldrum where there wasn't much racing going on across the country in the '90s, early 2000s, and then things started coming back where it's almost every non-AMA sanctioned event now is letting three wheelers in, and I don't know really of any that are not. There's every form of racing you can think of across the country that's available for three wheelers again, and that's super exciting, super cool.
Yeah, I kind of figured the cross country guys back at the GNCC would allow it, but they are holding firm and they're not letting it happen. I've seen a couple things, um, again, non-sanctioned AMA do it, you know.
Yeah.
I
No,
think we need
out
to
west here,
ban
we're
the
blessed.
AMA.
We're really blessed out west here because, like I say, I can rattle off at least 7, 8 organizations that are there's almost a race every weekend, really year round out here west that you can choose to go to with the three wheeler and all the different forms of racing. It's pretty cool.
Well, you're pretty much just now this year doing works.
So far, all I've done is works. Like I say, we're in the process of building some new machines that are pretty exciting. I think you're aware of one of those machines that we're getting ready for, and that's going to be pretty state of the art, real exciting machine, and probably get that going here in the middle of the year. But yeah, just we're going to be doing some of the 500-mile races, the 1,000 races. We're going to be doing those on three wheelers. They just haven't come up yet this year.
Okay, good, good. Looking forward to that. How are the turnouts for you guys at works? I've paid attention a little bit, but I haven't been looking super close.
Again, the budget is definitely the economy is the right word. Economy is definitely kicked in. Numbers are down a little bit from last year, but we're still getting, I mean, it's still enough people showing up at the starting gate that making it fun and competitive. We're getting, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys usually at the gate on most races. So it's fun.
Well, you and Wiley and a couple of the other old holdouts making sure that you're keeping the three wheelers alive. You're also running a full class of four wheeler stuff too, aren't you?
I am. I got real lucky last year and won my class on the quad. And then jumped up in classes this year and getting a little humbled. But still doing it. I mean, I'm driving so far for some of these work races. I mean, Cedar City's coming up in 2 weeks, and driving all the way up there. For me, I just want to burn gas, man. I mean, the more riding I get with the handlebars in my hand, that more fun I had on the drive home thinking about it. So to run the quad and run the three wheeler the next day, that's my cup of tea right now.
Nice. When you're going to the races, do you think that changing the format, or let me rephrase my question. Do you think if they rephrase change the format, it would bring more people out? You know, like the GNCC, it's growing and growing and growing, and they have a 1 day race where they have a youth race in the morning, then they have a set classes in the AM portion of the day, and then they go in to the afternoon race, which is their more aggressive riders, your A riders, your pros, your pro-ams. Do you think that they could do something like that and generate more business or more riders?
I do, but the thing about the Works that's so different than some of the other organizations out there is there's days or weekends, I should say, where they're running side by sides, dirt bikes, three wheelers, and quads all on the same weekend on the same course. And all of those vehicles have, I mean, 20 classes each. I mean, dirt bikes, I don't even know how many classes there are for dirt bikes, but there's a bunch of them in all the different age groups and A, B, and series, and they just cannot squeeze them all in. I mean, they would have to really cut back on the time or something. Now, on other races where they only have the dirt bikes and the quads, I think it's doable. But when they throw the side by sides in the mix, there's just way too many participants in classes to squeeze it all in the daylight.
Right. Yeah, well, the GNCC did away with the UTVs for whatever reason. They say it was insurance. I'm not behind the scenes, so I don't know exactly what the reasoning were. They seemed like they had a big turnout. They just couldn't keep it up.
Yeah, you know, I race a three wheeler predominantly on Sunday and the quad on Saturday. And depending on who's all racing that weekend, the track conditions are completely different. Like, for example, if they're having dirt bikes, side by sides, three wheelers, quads, all race the same weekend, and we race that three wheeler on Sunday afternoon. Wow, what a beat up course. I mean, from that sight lap that I get to take on Friday compared to what I see on race time on Sunday afternoon, it's night and day difference. It's so I mean, the ruts are different, and then when they're racing just dirt bikes and quads, it's a different class there. So I mean, depending on the vehicles they run on a course, the course changes drastically, especially
You
if
know,
it's a sand course, the ruts.
ride your one of your three wheelers, and it's pretty plush. You know, I thought it was pretty comfortable. I know we didn't get into too much technical. You guys were being nice to me out there and not wanting to beat up on me too much. How much better is that machine for you than jumping like on an 86 250R?
You know, I, I always say when people ask about it, I can ride that at my age and condition pretty hard. I mean, my lap times are usually within 2 seconds of each other from the first lap to the last lap on that. And on my 250R or my big bore 250Rs, I just can't manhandle them for an hour plus at a high level. But I can do that on that four stroke the way we have it set up. It's set up in a way that I feel comfortable enough to go at a pretty good pace the entire time of the race. And I just can't do that anymore on a two stroke. I'm not sure if I ever could have, to be honest.
It's that power delivery so smooth and so easy to control.
Yeah, and then modern suspension and the inverted forks with it just comes so way. I think if I had to look at the last 30 years of ATVs and I'll put three wheelers and quads into that category, suspension technology over the last 30 years has made so much better than I think engine differences, to be honest.
I don't know. That has made some huge engine developments, you know, with that modern day four stroke motor that you have in that machine. Even your TRX 450R motors. I know that the Yamaha 450R motor is probably one of the stronger versions of the modern day ATV motor, but that Honda motor was really good for what it was. I know it had a couple weaknesses, but you know, a lot of the stuff did at that era. But your
Yeah, there's
motorcycle,
still a lot. out west here, there's still a lot of Hondas on the starting lines and most of the classes, and sometimes they're on top of the box still. So it's still in its right area. That's still a very formidable weapon to use out here. Now back east, not so much so. I don't know if that's just because the choices they're choosing back there, or the terrain is that much different that they just don't do well. I'm not sure if it's a combination or what. Obviously, getting parts is huge. They can't get them, but yeah, it seems like those that are jumping on Hondas and keeping them happy out here west are still right there in the mix.
I think I think the Honda is still a great bike, especially in your off-road and your desert environment. I think the Yamaha has a ways to go. Development wise, it's not been developed for that environment. I think the Raptor 700 is a platform that you'll see in the desert more. The bigger, heavier machine, it's only 30 pounds heavier than the 450, but that 30 pounds in with a little bit of shock work, your mile an hour is so much higher than a 450 with your initial cost is down. You're not
Right.
having you're not having to build that engine, and take out some of the reliability. You can do very little work to that engine and it's still super reliable and you're rocking and rolling, and you're getting to that 100-mile-an-hour mark much easier with much less cost.
Yeah, no. And looking at the buggies and the trucks, for example, they're not too concerned about weight. Once you get that power out there and the right suspension set up, and you look at those cars and those trucks, they're not putting carbon fiber on them too much. I mean, they could do stuff to make them lighter, and they're not too concerned about it. If you have the right power and the right suspension, it's on. Just make it strong and make it powerful, and it'll be okay. And I think I had a chance of riding in some of the big 4x4 stuff, doing some testing for dirt wheels. And those 1000cc machines, I mean, they're 800-pound machines. And when
Yeah.
you're out there in the open desert riding them hard, it's pretty plush. And I mean, like you said, 100 miles an hour is not very hard on a 1000cc motor.
No.
Yeah, I was really impressed. I haven't had a lot of experience riding that kind of machine, and when I got on one and really did a couple of photo shoots for them, it was incredible. I was like, what the heck is this all about? I'm surprised more guys aren't trying to ride those in those long desert races, because I think it's might be the way to go.
That the belt is an issue, some of the clutching. Um, yeah, I can't tell you that it's not the way to go because I'm not schooled on them that much. I have spent a lot of time talking to Cody Collier and Brandon Frazier about their machines, and I talk to their builders. Um, Man, they do very little to the engine, if anything at all. They do some clutching work. They do a lot of suspension change, the lower A arms in the front, and I believe they change axles if I'm not mistaken, um, and run them. And there is a
Yeah.
kick setup for the gas tank, but from what I'm told, when they time it, it's no faster. So why spend the extra money to have it when it doesn't fill any faster than what they're using now?
If most of the quads out there are topping out in, let's just hypothetically say low 80s, just for a number to play with. If they're doing 82 miles an hour and that big monster quad is able to do 102 miles an hour, there's a lot of that course with the right rider on it where they can get that thing moving 102 miles an hour, and where it might be weak in some of those tight canyons or something, they've already been able to put a good gap on that other guy that's behind them doing 82 miles an hour when they were doing 102 for 10 miles of a section or something of that nature. There's some sections on most desert races that I've raced where the terrain will allow over 100 miles an hour. I mean, the dirt bikes do it all the time, but the trucks are hitting over 150 miles an hour in some areas. So it's out there.
That's why I think the Raptor 700 is your choice because it's lighter, it's got a great power plant, and it's a reliable machine. It really is. Look at all the miles they put on them in Dakar.
Right.
And they're basically stock motors with suspension, and they're putting an extra 150 pounds worth of fuel and tools and all kinds of other stuff on them to go ride that race, and they have no issues.
Yeah, I think you're going to see some more of those guys showing up with that motor, at least in some various machines, because that old saying, "There's no replacement for displacement." I think it's still true to this day in certain areas. I mean,
Well,
you
but
can
look,
make that 700 go 100 miles an hour without wringing its neck too much.
you can't even wring its neck. It's a torque monster, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, you're going to put a pipe and a ECU on it and an air intake system, suspension, and put a bigger countershaft sprocket on it with 23 22s on it and hold on because, oh boy,
yeah.
that's going to get you above that 90-mile-an-hour mark right there.
The more I learned about the Dakar race and stuff, they limit the speed of those guys. They get penalized when they go too fast. And I know
Uh,
a lot of the old timers were really not
only
happy about those changes.
in some areas. It's not the whole race. It's just
Yeah,
specific areas. When they're out on the race course, there's very few speed limits. When they bring them into certain areas where they're populated, or maybe the promoter thinks they're dangerous, they'll limit them the speed. Um, I know um, when they're headed to the bivouac after the race is over, but it's still part of the race because they have to, let's say they have to ride 100 miles to the bivouac. Well, that's all controlled speed and it's timed, so you can't get there too late. And if you're on the road and there is a speed limit, you have to honor the speed limit.
right. I don't think it was like that at one point back in history, or not as much of it anyway, because I've heard a lot of the guys that have been doing that game for a long time in Dakar complain about it so much more now. And we don't have that problem here out west. There's very few speed limit in any of the races that I've done. Maybe a couple spots, but not much at all. So again, if you had a machine that would do crazy speeds, I think it's in a big advantage.
Right. Well, look at Baja. They have speed limit areas now where in the old days, they didn't have any speed limit on the asphalt. Now they, you know, penalize them if they go over and they have to have a tracking device on there and they time them when they hit the asphalt and when they get off. And if that time doesn't match, they get a penalty.
Right, right. So who knows, man? Maybe some of the rule changes that they keep doing to these things, you won't be able to hit those speeds that we're talking about in the future. I don't know. I hope it doesn't go that way. I just like the pure, if you can go 150, go 150, and whatever the train will allow. I know they're trying to keep safety as a number one priority. I get that, but I guess I'm old school.
I don't necessarily think that they're limiting the areas that where you can go race out in the desert. I think it's more trying to manage it where population is. In Mexico, when they put them on the asphalt, they have to slow them down because they've had accidents, they've had deaths, and they got to control that. The government's not going to let them just have a free for all and wipe out spectators. It's just not going to work out.
No, I get it. Yeah, and there's been some bad tragedies in the last few years for sure. It's a shame, but yeah,
It's been
see
a
both
number of
sides.
years, but I think in the open desert, I don't think you're going to see a speed limit. I really
I
don't.
hope it. I hope it stays that way. Yeah, hope it
You know,
stays that way.
I ask you this every once in a while, when we were talking, you're not a spring chicken anymore. Do you see yourself racing for a number of more years?
There's lots of factors. I've already cut back quite a bit. I mean, little bit of economy, but just life in general. Spending more time with kids, and just I have a lot of other hobbies that are very time consuming as well that I enjoy doing, and it's all a give and take thing. I mean, in 2022, shoot, we raced our butts off that year. Uh we we won best in the desert. We won WORCS. We won Hare and Hound. I mean, we were racing almost every weekend all year long. And it's hard to keep machines happy. It just took a lot of effort to do all of that different forms of racing. So last year, not so much. We did best in the desert last year, some of the races, not the whole series. This year is predominantly just WORCS, and then jumping in on a couple of these long desert races that I'm really looking forward to there. But I don't see myself stopping ever, like stopping. I mean, they have age group classes that go 70s and 80-year-old guys now are still racing out there, and as long as I'm having fun and still smiling and still getting the adrenaline off of it, I don't think I'll stop. But I can see myself slowing down.
On the new three-wheelers, do you think that you're going to continue to work on developing the product for the three-wheelers?
Absolutely. We're super excited right now because we're playing around with dirt bike motors in the three wheelers, and the 450 dirt bike motors being, fuel injected, and just all of the evolutions that they've had in those engines. I mean, 65 horsepower reliable, OEM, everything, reliability, and getting 60 plus horsepower out of these engines is super impressive. I mean, not in the past have we had that in a three wheeler, especially, and having a few of those coming out real soon and being able to play with those, and then we're still playing with frames and suspension and fuel cells. There's just so many different components of things that you can personalize to your liking, and for different forms of racing too. I mean, the stuff that I was racing 10 years ago in motocross, I'm not doing too much of that anymore, but that's a completely different animal of a machine versus the stuff that I'm doing in works or best in the desert, the long desert races. So I think the evolution is still going. There's still a lot of guys out there that are tweaking on suspension and taking the new modern dirt bike stuff. I mean, even in the quad world, in my personal opinion, there has not been a lot of R&D by the manufacturers the last 10 years in quads. I mean, even Yamaha has slowed that down just because nobody else is playing the game. But there's individual companies out there like Elka still making better suspension now than they did 10 years ago. And that's just one example, but there's all kinds of small independent companies that are still taking all kinds of components and making them better than they used to. And so that's exciting.
So you're in favor of the hybrid industry.
Absolutely. I think one of the best things that Works did was change their rules to hybrid. I know a lot of the other racing associations have done that. And there's Walsh is making that new quad that's going to be able to put any engine in it you want. And that thing sounds pretty amazing. I haven't seen one with my own eyes, but that's awesome. And I think when that thing comes out, either one or two things will happen. All the manufacturers might get an eyebrow raise, and maybe a couple of them jump back in and play with it, or all the associations just open up their rules to a hybrid, bring anything you want. And I think both of those are a win for racing, whatever way it goes.
The problem you're going to have with that is you're going to lose Yamaha.
When you say lose them, in what way?
They're going to stop making it.
Stop making the 450 altogether?
Stop making the 450 altogether. When they've already, this is through the grapevine, I've heard this, so I don't know this for factual. I couldn't just name one guy at Yamaha to say this, but I've heard that if GNCC and ATVMX stop the production rule, they're done.
I don't see it happening. From everything I know, they're selling every one they can make. If they made twice as many as they're currently making today, they would sell all of those too. So I don't see that.
If you look at the sport and the pro-am in ATV motocross, the hybrids aren't winning the championships.
No, I understand that, but they've also, like you said earlier in our conversation, they haven't been around that long, at least the modern 450 hybrid version dirt bike engines. So they're still evolving. I mean, Bo's racing them in the Work Series, and it's evolving. It's getting better for him every single time.
Right. I see that he struggles on certain courses with it and doesn't on others. I think that's suspension testing, even though that him and Doug won't admit it. I believe that the machine responds differently.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me, I want to build one so bad that I can taste it. It's
just
hands on the componentry to do it, and put it together. I have a frame sitting there ready. I just need I just need the motor and the components, and I can move forward. But I want to do it for personal reasons, just to say that you just to build one
Yeah.
and then go out and try it out and work with the suspension. I don't ride as much as I used to, but I still know enough riders that we could go out for a couple weekends and test and try things and just see how they're performing. Plus, you talk to some of the guys that are tuning ECUs. Some of the power delivery can be changed by how they map it.
Yeah, it's really awesome how say that just the new technology out there, they can plug in a laptop to almost any 450 motor and give you the power delivery you're looking for within minutes. It's pretty cool.
It's not quite that simple, but yeah, you get the base idea. I think that it will be that simple at one point. Right now, it's a little smarter than we are, or most people are. You have to learn it, but it's coming. It's coming. They'll figure out some app to be so that you can figure out how to tune it or change the curve or do these things. I mean, Yamaha's got an app that you can do some changing on. You're not getting too crazy. They're not allowing you to destroy your engine because you manipulated it too much, but you can make some adjustments. So yeah, it's
Yeah, I think I mean, a lot of the professional dirt bike riders, 450 class, they're not looking for more power. They're looking for more rideability in the power. But again, I mean, that's a completely small little course that's built inside, in some cases, baseball stadium field. So there's not long straightaways or anything of that nature. But it's very rare that you hear anybody saying we need more power in Supercross. Um, Even Ken Roxon, who's probably maybe riding the machine that has the least amount of power, he's out there at the front line getting whole shots, winning races. And I think the game that I'm playing right now in the desert, where you got these 3 mile straightaways and things of that nature, um, more power the better, faster the speed the better. And it's a different animal, different forms of racing, but to take the modern machines that have so much potential with just ECU tuning to get these crazy power out of them is exciting to me. Super exciting. I wonder what the future is going to bring.
I think it's. I was asking Mike Walsh the other day, if he thought that the manufacturers would come in with another motor design upgrade, and he doesn't believe they're going to. He thinks this is our package style of engine that we're going to run for a number of years. Maybe small little changes, but they're just making it better and better and better. As far as another revolutionary change like they did in 99 with the YZ 400F. Um, I don't think you're going to see changes that way. You'll see changes in the electronics. And with guys like Walsh and some of the other manufacturers, you probably could see some chassis development that hopefully would roll into the manufacturers if they would only listen.
Right. Well, there's I've seen them out at the dunes, those Raptor motors that put little turbos on them. I mean, it's insane the amount of power they're squeezing out of those things. I don't know if that reliability would hold up well for the desert game, but there's Raptors out there that have 200 horsepower with the turbos on them. I mean,
Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah. I don't think that we need anything like that to go racing with, unless we're straight lining it. But wow, dang that. And what's the reliability like?
I don't know, but going back 10 years ago in the UTV world, I mean, there wasn't turbos out there. They've limited that rule somehow to 1,000 cc's for the most part. So in order to squeeze more out of them, almost everybody has a turbo now. Every manufacturer puts a turbo on them, and they're making those 1,000 cc motors with turbos super reliable. So why couldn't a Raptor with a turbo be tweaked to become that reliable as well? Again, not to say that you need that horsepower, but is it possible? Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, I just don't know what practicality it would bring in a race like, a desert race or, if we could do it, I'm sure that somebody's going to try it, and then you have to make a special class for it because not everybody's going to run a 700 turbo Raptor, with 200 horsepower.
What's so cool about the desert racing as it exists today is almost all the classes are open classes. I mean, there's if a trophy truck wanted to have 10,000 horsepower and give it a shot, they could do that. There's nothing stopping them.
Right, right. I
And
mean,
that's pretty
it's
cool.
cool. I would be a little skeptical bringing a turbo bike unless we did a lot of testing, you know.
Yeah. Like I say, if I'm just the point, I guess it is in the watercraft industry, they have turbos. In the side by side industry, there's turbos, and yet that hasn't made its way into the dirt bikes or the quads in the desert. But the side by sides, I mean, all the fast guys are finishing with turbos.
We'll see. I mean, we'll see because something will happen when they make it small enough, you know, compact enough to where it'll fit, and and you know, then we can do it. I don't think straight line bikes out in the dunes are comparable to what we build to go race in the desert, you
Nope,
know.
not at all. I agree with you 100% there. But again, we're just talking la la land, and where's this going to go? Who knows?
Yeah, I see some changes coming. I mean, they're going to have to do something. Also, you look at the traditional customer though, the traditional customers that want, you know, 250Rs and Banshees and LT500s, they're still there. They're
Oh,
still
tons of.
wanting the traditional.
Yeah, well, I'm a two-stroke lover. I mean, any good running two-stroke, I don't care what make, model, displacement it is, when they come up on the pipe, that gives me adrenaline and fun that none of my four-strokes give me.
Well, it's just the hair on the back of my neck stands up and I'm like, oh God, can I hold on to it? You know, because they rip and it gets exciting in a big hurry.
The last race, there was actually a guy running a real nice, actually it was a Lobo with a nice running two-stroke motor in it, and I came up behind him, and just that smell of that two-stroke thing just made me smile. I actually kind of stayed there for a couple seconds longer than I probably would have if it was a four-stroke, just because I was loving the fact that he was on a two-stroke. The smell, the sound, everything about it was just cool.
That's awesome that people are bringing them out and racing them. You know, on the 250R motor, you can do everything but the CDI aftermarket I'm aware of. I don't know of an aftermarket CDI that works.
I don't think it works as good. I know there's a couple of them out there. I've tried a couple of my 250Rs and wasn't happy with them. So yeah, I think you're right there. But yeah, every piece of that motor can be built aftermarket. It's pretty cool.
Right. You know, I like it. I think it revives the sport. Plus, we can build the whole thing. We can build the whole thing minus the CDI aftermarket.
Right. Well, long live the two strokes. I mean, those are some awesome airs of quad and three wheeler racing when the gate was full of fire breathing two strokes. That was some good stuff right there.
Right. Yes, it was. I think I really don't think that the ATV industry is dying. I think that it's probably going to change a little. Um, but you're seeing enthusiastic people.
Yeah. Yeah. It sticking with that two stroke line, most of the people I see riding two strokes still to this day are not spring chickens. They're guys that have kind of gone through the whole gauntlet, like myself. Race two strokes, race four strokes, played with dirt bikes, played with quads, and I'm at the stage now where just what's going to make me smile the most. I'm not out there trying to be what's going to be the fastest. Obviously, I'm faster on certain types of modern four stroke motor stuff, but they don't make me smile as much. And I think a lot of guys are at that point too, where they're building that dream 250R or Quadzilla or Banshee that they remember, and that's what makes them smile.
And they're all asking for different things. And they're, you know, from electric start kits to color schemes to combinations that we're putting together. We're having a lot of fun with it because I get to do things that we didn't get to do, you know, 20 years ago.
Right, right.
In the
No,
development.
it's awesome. I love seeing those things. Every time I see one, I take a double take on it and look at it twice, and not so much with modern four-stroke stuff. But anytime I come across a two-stroke, whether it be at the dunes in the desert or at the starting line, or in some cases in the middle of a race, I check it out a little bit more than I would anything else.
I know we have some two strokes that are coming down the finish line in the next few months, and some people just say, "Oh, that's the same old thing." No, they're actually we're doing different things. Whether the people pick up on them when they see them or not, we'll see. But they look totally different. They're gonna they're gonna function better. I think they're just gonna be much nicer machines.
As a builder like yourself, I mean, let's just throw two examples out there. Building a really nice 450 uh, Yamaha quad right now for a customer, or building a really trick Banshee for a customer, which one just makes you a little bit more giddy when you get a chance to build it?
I'm gonna say both because as a builder, um, okay, let's clarify that. When you get the customer that comes to you and goes, "These are my color schemes, and this is what I want to do with it," call me when it's ready. Then we get creative. They allow us to be creative. They allow us to do different things, and the machines take on a whole life of them of their own. And I really enjoy that. Um, if I'm handcuffed a little bit and held within certain where I got to stay within the lines, um, it's still fun, but it's not as fun. Um, I'll be honest with you, older I am, I like the four stroke power and I enjoy testing those more so than the two strokes. Um, you saw that purple Banshee that we shipped to Florida. Uh,
Yeah.
I loved that bike. It was just I cried when he told me he got it home and rode it in the dirt. You know, it'll never be the same ever again.
Right.
And I have a couple of people that are building Banshees to go ride in the dirt for function that they want them that nice as well. So um, we have some other stuff coming up that I don't know if it'll ever get ridden.
Wow.
They're going to build it for all the function. It's going to have all the function. Whether they ride it or not is the other story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So many awesome historical machines that just different people. There's people that are diehard Kawasaki people. I see those out there from time to time as well, and I've got a chance to ride them, and they weren't my cup of tea, but some people love them.
I believe there's a total difference in the way that Takati and the way that 250R, Honda rode and felt the power delivery. They're two totally different things. And the people that like the Takati, I understand why they don't like the 250R because they don't respond the same way. When
Yeah,
you ride,
it's probably whatever you're used to. I mean, I very seldom are you going to find someone that can just jump on a machine that's foreign to them and set the world on fire on it. I could say it takes especially two-stroke stuff. There's so many different power deliveries you can get out of them: top end, bottom end, mid range. Yeah, I've rode some that are like light switches,
right.
and when they're on, they're on. But I wasn't practical for what I was trying to do at the time. But still impressive when they come on that pipe and rip your arms off, and your eyes go back in your head, and you're just like, whoa.
They almost scare you. They snap so hard.
Exactly. And the sound of them is just that's just awesome.
Yeah, the smell and the sound is an acquired taste, but see, a lot of us grew up on that, or we're young, and that's all we got to smell for 20 years in the industry and here for 20 years, and you got to love it. You
Yeah,
miss it.
for sure. For sure, for sure. I'm sure there's some modern people today that are like, that's disgusting. It's polluting the air. It's- it's-
Talking pollutes the air, dude. Why don't you be quiet?
yeah, exactly. I think most of
Oh,
those people that would say that live around you right now, and you're in your neck of the woods
easy,
anyway.
easy. Hey, you guys have your own trouble in your own in Arizona. Let's not
We
get
do.
crushing California. Yes, we have a lot of problems here, but
All my family and loved ones still live there, so I'm down there quite a bit visiting. So I'm in tune with it all.
it's crazy some of the stuff that goes on. But I do get worried sometimes Um, we talk about the BLM every once in a while, and I had a conversation with um, the owner of Legacy, and he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Cut them some slack. These are the guys that are working with us, that are making it so that we can race. They're good crew over in Nevada. They're really they really are trying to allow the desert racing under the realm of the rules that they have to work with. You know, my problem is we didn't vote for any of that stuff. We're
Yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah, the little bit I've learned about what it would take to put on these long races, there's so much involved. I mean, they race some of those races through like 5 different BLM territories where
right.
there's 5 different permits you have to fill out and 5 different people you need to talk to that have all different ways. Yeah, it's a logistical nightmare is what it is.
Well, and they've become friends with a lot of them, and because they've worked with some of them for so many years, and so many of the departments, whether they have head changes or whatever. It's sometimes it's guys like myself that need to, you know, sit down and be quiet and let the guys that are working with them deal with it, and just accept that these are the rules that we have to play by.
100%. Yeah, I have nothing but respect for BLM allowing us to still do it and their help with it. I know in my participation in the races, every time I've come across any of those guys, they're nothing but respectful to all of us as racers. So yeah, there's no weird vibe at all that I've ever felt.
I think they think we're nuts.
You probably get a little bit of that out there.
I mean, come on. Anybody that would go across the desert at 80, 90 miles an hour on a three-wheeler or a four-wheeler, you got to be a little mental.
Hey, you know what? Different strokes for different folks. I told you this before, but I feel here's another one that's really weird for you. Now, the last works race, and there's been lots of works races like that. My fastest lap times on the last works race was on my three-wheeler versus my quad. I put down faster lap times. I couldn't do it the entire race, but my single fastest lap time was on a three-wheeler last works race. I just feel more comfortable on it. I got more seat time on it. I keep trying to make myself into a quad racer just because there's so much more of it out there and so many more participants out it the competitive side of it is fun. I personally just am not a quad racer. I don't know how else to say it.
I think you have to just stick with what you're good at, because you're really good on the three-wheeler, and you know, don't try to convert yourself into something. Ride it and race it and have a good time with it. But that three-wheeler is, you're molded to it, and it's poetry in motion. You just keep riding it and having a good time, and doing what you do. I don't want to see you develop into something that you're not, and then not ride your three-wheeler. Like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, I got to ride one of your machines, and I'm still impressed how fun they are. I would go ride a three-wheeler like that if I had one.
Yeah.
Because
No, and I try to get more and more younger guys involved. I mean, I constantly telling people that like ATVs in general, usually it's quads, obviously. I say, take my trailer for a ride, go for it. Anyone that knows how to ride, just as long as they take it easy, they're gonna pick it up and not go wreck my three-wheeler. They're gonna go out and learn what it's all about. And I think that's the key to getting more people involved in three-wheeler racing is just to get them on one and get them out there to feel it and realize these aren't as crazy as I've heard. And that wasn't that dangerous. And I didn't get hurt and I had fun. And I don't mind getting one of those and giving it a try. So I think that's if three-wheelers are going to stay alive, that's what it's going to take. Is us that know how to ride them and to let other people ride them and get a taste of it because we need more youth involved.
exactly.
That's the key. Yeah.
Youth right there. We need to have these youth machines out there. Joe Toll and I have been talking on ATV on Demand about the youth machines that aren't there. We need to have those above, where they don't have, you can't go buy a Raptor 250 anymore. So you have nothing after the 110s, and the smaller ATVs. There's nothing there. Can't go
Right.
buy. You know, they got the KO 200. A lot of people, oh, it's a China quad. I'm staying away from it. Well, if you can't buy anything else and the aftermarket people will build parts for it, why would you not buy it? You know, if KO's got a 300 fuel injected machine that they believe when it comes, it has more horsepower than a Raptor 250. And, you know, it's going to be a viable machine to own. You know, the aftermarket guys are chomping at the bit to get their hands on it so that they can build another sport ATV for the youth.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited to see those as well. I've been following the stories behind the scenes, and I haven't seen one with my own eyes in person yet, but I'm excited to see it. And I think they're gonna do well. I think it might be that little piece of the puzzle that also brings back a manufacturer. I mean, if those things start getting over here and there's full starting lines of KOs out there with the youth involved, why wouldn't a manufacturer go, wait a minute here, and at least take a double take on it, or they're not even paying attention right now, I don't think.
I think they are. I just think legal has got them all wadded up in knots for no reason.
Well, that would be a shame if that's the way. I mean, I haven't seen anything legally gone screwy with the quad scene that I'm aware of.
Everybody's everybody's still feeling the effects from 85 and 86 when they trashed it on TV.
That's insane. Yeah.
I just wish that we could go back and have restitution from those people that lied, and the stories were just blatantly lies.
Right. I think the 20-something parent today has a different mindset than we did when, you know, I don't know. There's a word that the pussification of America.
I wasn't going to go there, but hey, when
I'm gonna throw it out there. These parents feel super safe by putting their kid in a full roll cage with a helmet on, and they look at that as like they're probably not going to get hurt. I mean, if that thing were to roll over 5 times, there's a good chance with all that safety precaution that my kid's going to be okay. But throw them on something with handlebars, especially with the history, I think a lot of parents freak out on that, and that's a shame.
But they'll turn around and let them ride a bicycle on the street or ride a skateboard.
Right? Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Don't get it at all. But
yeah,
you know, David, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show and to talk with you about our industry. We didn't talk a lot about what you got going on, but we did have a great conversation about what's going on in the industry. And I can tell from talking with you, you've been watching.
The team here at ATV-TALK would love your feedback. Please email it.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to share us with your family and friends. The podcast is available on all streaming platforms, and you can find us on social media as ATV-TALK Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter.